Okay. Okay, this is interesting. We'll keep it just like that. All right, guys. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark. Some of you guys may know me. What I am going to do today, I'm going to wait for for more people to join us. I'm doing a live. I'm actually covering three topics today. We're going to do fishing. I'm going to talk about social media. I'm going to also address Azure becoming intra, and I'm going to do a high level view of of intra. I'm going to actually show you guys what the inside of the box looks like, what I did to create an environment, and then we're going to take it from there. Let's see what we have. Let's see. Okay, good, 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 good. We see some and change notifications. I am broadcasting right now from two things. I am broadcasting from show at least one thing. To travel, streets, so technical overview. We're going to touch base on what your videos would be about in your parts. So I am. Give me a second here. We're not. So I'm basically doing this on. And oh God, this guy's show this one camera source. Okay, all right. So I have to show one camera source on TikTok, which I really don't personally want to do. Fishing, social media. Da, ba, ba, ba. Okay. All right. So we're going to touch base on a couple of things real quick. But again, my name is Mark. Some people call me Tech. I'm just doing this. I want to show you guys a couple of things, and then we'll take it from there. Right? I am in the future. I am definitely going to be doing a. Right. Okay. While everyone is waiting, I want to talk about. So while everyone is waiting, I would just want to just talk about a couple of quick things. Um, so one of the things when it comes to these podcasting or these types of environments is that if we just start broadcasting right away, then it's like we're gonna we're gonna miss the opportunity to connect with people. So we need to give people in the chat or in the group some time before they jump in, before we start going into these topics. I wonder if okay, when I shut off the music on this, I don't want any music. All right, so this stuff right here. Okay, good. So I'm just going through, just touching base on some things. I'm not sure if I need Ryuk. We'll talk about Ryuk later on in the future. Um, let's see. I'm pulling this. All right, let's go with this so that way you guys can see. All right, okay. So this is the environment that we're going to that I'm more or less going to be showing everything off of. I want to plug a couple of quick things that have helped me, right? For those of us that are just starting our IT career, I want to suggest that you take a look at how you learn. Once you examine how you learn, right? Try to implement the tools that serve you best. Give me a second here, guys. Yeah. So that's the thing is to implement the tools that serve you best. One of the tools that I've always loved to use, honestly, is Pinterest, right? And people like if you know, you know, Pinterest is really a great go-to. Let me see something real quick, guys. I wonder if yeah. So Pinterest is really a great go-to. We're gonna leave the camera on for this. In the other one, I'm also doing a live on my LinkedIn and on YouTube, right? So on YouTube, you can check me out at Mark the Professional. You can check that out, right? I'm really not a big fan. I wanted to see because I think so many people. Give me a second here, guys. Whatever. Okay, all right. So let's just touch base on some things, and then we're gonna get it going. All right. So this is a technology live. I'm still working the kinks out, but I'm so gonna get there, right? Including probably adding some moderators in the future. Definitely taking this content that I'm putting out, and then going on from there. Um, a couple of things that I want to touch base on as the room fills up on TikTok. Learn how you learn, right? Learn how you learn, do the best that you can, right? One of the tools that I think when I started, I would have loved to have had is Pinterest. I mean, even though I feel like it's been around for a while, I just don't remember using it like back in '09 at all. That's how old I am, back in '09, right? Okay, so the thing is that with Pinterest, you go, you log into Pinterest. Let me show you guys real quick. You log into Pinterest. You know what? We're using a Mac, so let me give me a second here, guys. So one of the things, you go you go to Pinterest. Ah, yeah, let me just pull up this Pinterest thing here, right? And in Pinterest, whatever you like, good God of mercy, yeah, pardon me. Because basically, because I'm running a Restream. This is definitely, I have an older MacBook, but you know we're gonna make it work. I'm gonna have to probably shut down some of these other resources, of course. Right, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Give me a second, guys. Lord of mercy. Yeah, so basically, so you go to Pinterest, and in Pinterest is where you would look up things that basically you're interested in. And in Pinterest, give me a second, guys. Give me a second. God, I'm just, guys, give me a second here. I'm just closing down some of these other resources so that way I can just stay on point. And I just want to make sure that I can speak with you guys. How's the live? Is it showing well by any chance, or what? I think we should be okay. All right. So basically, I use Pinterest, right? And with Pinterest, Pinterest is basically giving me the ability. Like, there's people that are like creating all types of charts. They're creating all types of information with Pinterest. Mhm. I'm not liking this. Is very staccato-ish, but it's okay. It's all good. So basically, on Pinterest, they're using all this. They're getting all this information, this stuff here on the 7 layer. This is actually the TCP IP layers, right? But the point of using Pinterest is that you can basically, whatever the subject is, you can look it up, and it'll give you a visual, like more or less something visual that you can start out with. And that's very important, especially when you're talking about the 7 layer OSI, the application presentation session, transport network data, and the physical, right? It's important to understand how each one of those things work, and you have to remember like one, two, three, four. And so someone is already doing it. And then of course there's the TCP IP model, which is, product application, a host, internet, and then the network access, and all those things are broken down. So the more or less, I'm kind of waiting for the room to build up, and I'm also saying use Pinterest. Don't sleep on Pinterest. Use Pinterest, guys. Right? Pinterest is a very good resource, an absolutely incredible resource for you to learn, for you to learn, for you to have a good understanding of what's going on. Take a look at using Pinterest. All right, hang on a second, guys. Take a look at using Pinterest. All right, hang on a second. Thank you, Nate. Pinterest. All right, hang on a second. Thank you, Nate. I had to go into my other device. Thank you, Nate. Basically, all right, yeah, and for the encouragement also, man. All right, encouragement also, man. All right, what else? Okay, all right. So there's another thing that, like, I'm still waiting for the room. We got two people in the room. Nate, since you're here, you already tapped and stuff, but by all means, go ahead and send out, right? and I have another account that I log into. I actually have two other accounts, and I use them. Right. The subject today is going to be phishing, social media, and Azure. I created an account with Azure. Oh, you have an Echo? Okay, okay. I know exactly. Hang on a second. Oh, what about now? Do you still hear an echo? One, two, three, four, five, six. Echo? No? Probably not. Okay, good. All right. Thank you. All right, good. All right, good, good, good. So basically, I have another account. Like a little trick to building everything up is you have other accounts. Try to make them useful. One is for a website that I'm working on, and so you're developing something for a website. All websites need like a social media backend. So I have a TikTok account for that. I have a Facebook account for that. I have all those things for that. And it's not a bad idea to let them piggyback off of each other. Like in this case, right? This one, like this is me sending out all the lives, right? From this other account. And this other account, because for those that don't know, TikTok can be a little bit on the crazy end, right? I'm not trying to join as a guest. TikTok be a little bit on the crazy end. So what you do is you have to kind of protect your identity, but people know it's me. And like I really don't have much to lose. You know what I'm saying? I'm not some like politician. I'm not trying to like run for office or anything like that. I'm simply just trying to just, you know, do my thing per se. Right. So I don't even care. You know what I'm saying? Like if people be like, whatever. I'm a normal. I have real life experiences. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, um, I get real life experiences. That's the only way I could describe anything. For people that know me, like have worked with me before, I've had disagreements with bosses. I've had supervisors be like, you know, I needed you to go. I'll tell you one thing right now. There's even a guy, he's probably watching on LinkedIn. Once he told me to go to Brooklyn, but the thing is, he didn't know that a lot of people didn't know how many people I knew when I was working at this company. They had no clue. Who I knew, how I knew them, how they knew my family. They didn't know. So basically, this guy's like, go to Brooklyn. And I was like, for what? And he was explaining who I needed to service, et cetera, et cetera. And I had to look at him and I was like, hey, listen, that person is off. That person is going to be off for 2 weeks. And then, like, he said something, I said something, and next thing you know, he's like, you talk to me like that again, I'll fire you. Mind you, I'd already been there a year. Um, it was the wildest experience. I still couldn't believe that the person did that though, but that's just how it was. Termination in that company required like several steps. He himself could not have done that. Um, but I'm just saying I have real life experience dealing with people. You know what I'm saying? This was very early on. We're talking help desk tech stuff. Um, I joke around with these people that do this help desk tech stuff. I'm not gonna harp on negative things, but I joke around with these people that do this studying thing. And every time that they ask a question regarding CompTIA A plus, my response is like, do it. Like they asked something about like a toner probe, right? And I was like, oh, use the Turner probe, whatever, and then go study for cloud because help desk could be profitable, but dang, bro, like seriously, it depending on who's managing you, you really have to have like a good sense of self, right? A lot of times, a lot of times they don't really care for the text. Tell you the truth, they don't care for the text. People that work, people that use the processes, are really just trying to make. Sometimes, I mean, it's just I don't want to sound all negative and stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like I have to force quit a process. Okay, we're not going to do that. Anyways, so like sometimes people just, people will use the technology as an excuse as to why they couldn't do something. I mean, I've seen this is what's crazy. I worked in a place where it was remote, a straight remote, literally. And there were people that like their laptops were being broken. I mean, smashed almost. You know what I'm saying? Smashed. And I had to send them another one. I had to like within I forgot what the SLA was, but like SLA stands for service level agreement. But basically I'd have to within a 6 hour window, within a 6 hour window, basically get that laptop in the mail, right? And that was almost like on a 24/7 basis, which I mean that's just what it was. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it was. You want to do IT. I'll tell you right now, help desk is always a great place to start. But if you're not doing help desk like in a startup with a SaaS or something like that, if it's like physical, like you're going to be dealing with people that are like, you know, I need to change, I need you to change the ink on my printer. Like what? Like you know what I'm saying? I mean, you imagine if you're trying to learn, imagine if you're trying to um work with an antivirus company. You know, there's an issue that's affecting everything or can affect a department. And someone that can basically physically just change the ink on a printer wants you to come over and do it. Now, mind you, I will say that is a good chance that times have changed because this was back when this was pre-ransomware. People were not taking some of the topics that I'm about to go into right now. I'll tell you right now, people were not taking it seriously. People were not taking phishing seriously. People were not taking cybersecurity seriously. People were just not taking these things seriously. I mean, I don't even want to go into it, but so much because I don't want to sound traumatized. But that's just how not serious people were. I mean, I could name people, I could name executives and remembering their passwords. That's what's wild. I remember I remember one person. I mean, respectfully, if you're watching this, I respect you. You understand what I'm saying? It's just the truth. You know what I'm saying? It's just the truth. It was like the person's kid's first name and all that they did every I want to say because at that time we had like a 90-day rule or something like that. Every 90 days, all they did was just say, "Hey, put in my password." That's how unserious security used to be. I've had people be like, I should write down these examples. I've had high level executives be like, put in my password. I've seen admins reuse the same password. I mean, literally say it like, "Oh, I'm not. You gotta use the same password." Um, Maybe the only thing I will say is this: one of the best things that happened was MFA, multi-factor authentication, which requires that you put in that you have something else aside from just a password. It can either be a biometric, it could be like your finger, it could be the MFA application that's on your phone. Those are the types of things that I think lent a lent a bit more credence, right? But I'll even tell you, man, I've had people argue with me about MFA, which is interesting. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because I still remember this one place I was at. It's like the HR person was just legit going hard. I'm not putting this on my phone. I'm not putting this on my phone. Get me a phone. Get me a phone then. And I'm sitting there looking at this person like damn, like I mean, I think they just made 4 months, but that's how hard people were going regarding MFA. And then they were like, I don't use this anyplace else. And I was like, you must use it because if you bank, it must be on your bank. All the banks are doing it now. Oh, that's what it's called? Well, why isn't this called Mike? I mean, on and on and on. I'll be honest with you, bro. I was just not like I was like, man, wow. You know? And the way that it helped us level. But I think even other people that are watching this now would be like, oh, use even at higher level, there's a degree of like politicking. So for me, I hate politics. I don't hate politics like in real life. I understand that politics is a necessity, but I don't want to take 1 hour to get to work to be lit up over over the dumbest shit. You understand? It's not good. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to like it's like the end of day, right? Even if nothing was going on, but if it's the end of day and next thing you know at 6:30 someone is like calling and I need to remote in and I need to help them and we're online together for 45 minutes, right? We should both try to get through it as fast as possible so that way we can go be with our families, that way we can go do things. That means that I have to have the correct access. I have to have the correct access, meaning that if I need to VPN, right, then that's what I need to do. I need to VPN in. If I need to remote in, that tool is working, that's the correct access. Now when I land on that person's machine, right, the path to resolving it, it has to be there. Or if I land on that person's phone, the path to resolving it, it has to be there, right? I can't, being in the middle of a political war because there's an incoming MSP. Where am I supposed to be? And some event had happened, and credentials are being changed, and processes are being changed. Then, yo, don't give me the ticket, fam. You know. And I got to tell you, I know right now some people might be going, oh, God, he's talking about that. But I'll be honest with you, like if you were no help then, you're no help now. I think it's fair game for me to talk about these types of things. That's just my opinion, though. So all right. So let's talk about fishing, right? What is fishing? Why is it important to understand fishing? And also, I want to frame fishing regarding everything that's going on right now, right? Now, phishing is a vector. It's a way that a malicious hacker is attempting to get the receiver of the email to press something or to do something. There's different types of phishing, right? And oddly enough, let's do the here we go. I'm gonna have to really, really, really bear down on this thing here. What is this force quit? All right, give me a second here, guys. Give me a second. Give me a second here. So I'm gonna do a command Q real quick. Wait, option and command. Okay, here we go. Option and command in Q. Oh, option command and escape. Okay, I might end up having to restart the machine because I need to do certain things. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right, here we go. All right, it appears. Just going to pause this for a second here. Pause the live. Okay, all right, we're going to pause the live for a second. Here we go. First quick preview. Okay, great. All right, pardon me, guys. I had to just basically just force quit a couple of things so that way I can go into like my next part real quick. So we want to talk about fishing, right? And here, right here. So this right here. This is an example of a phishing email. Right now, I think that some of us do not have. Let's see what the view I can get is here. Don't worry about it. All right, let's just make this big, right? Okay, good. All right, so this is an example of an email that was sent to my personal account. Let's take a look at why this is a suspicious email. This would be an example of phishing, right? Ooh, you know what else? You know what else I'm gonna stop doing? Here you go. I'm sorry. Okay, I got it. I gotta try to just. Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I have an older Mac, and I have to basically, like, I need to consolidate the resources. So I just stopped that little chest thing that was going on in the side. All right. So here's what it is. So this would be an example of a phishing email. Let's just take a look at this. So the name Sarah Duffy, right? And then look right next to it, gmail.com, right? I blurred out my name. I mean, whatever. You guys, my government is marked, but it doesn't matter. But one of the things is that, if they use your first name, last name, it's probably a little bit more better, right? Better, right? I hope this finds you well. I'm reaching out to personally inform you about current and available job opportunities at Walgreens across multiple locations in the United States. Even the language, it sounds a little bit suspect, right? Let's just take a look at that, right? One of the things, this thing that says kindly reply to this email, no one, like in America, kindly followed by a request, we just don't do that. I don't know how else I can explain it to you, but it's just we just don't do that. Also, take a look at this photo right here. I mean, it just looks like so super polished, very AI-ish, very weirdish. Another thing is that I'm saying there's no contact information. What's up, Mooney? Right? I'm saying that there's no contact information that's given, right? So the combination of these things in itself is one part. Like it really is one part. The other thing to do though is to try to go to reputation services. But this would be one example of phishing. What's even more to note is that this person, Sarah Duffy, that doesn't exist, somehow or another has a LinkedIn page, right? And is attached to Walgreens. What does that mean? Could it be that it's a zombie account? That's possible. But overall, though, when I almost feel like, let me see something real quick and see if I can pull it up. I downloaded the original message, and oh, here it is right here. In the original message, let me see if I should do this real quick. Let me try to pull it out. So in the original message, I was able to feed it to Gemini. Got it. The original message, I was able to feed it to Gemini. We're done with this Pinterest part. In the original message, I was able to feed it to Gemini. I don't want you guys to see all this other stuff I'm working on. Okay. And I asked very simply in the prompt, please analyze this email and can you tell me where it came from? Right. And it basically said, based on, they started to give me information, right? Email address, whatever, whatever, right? The email was sent via Google's own servers, authentication, all checks passed. This right here is an important part of doing security is understanding how SPF, DKIM, and DMARC records work. But then it starts to go into this other stuff, the Gmail versus corporate domain, and this is stuff that I myself like I could do and I've had to do, right? But like I've had to download that in Outlook. I think it's called X Records. In Gmail, when you pull something, it says download like original or something like that, right? So it goes. The email is technically legitimate. It really came from the Gmail user, but professionally suspicious. Look at this. The email address is Sarah Duffy with two F's, but the signature in the LinkedIn used Duffy. The email address is Sarah Duffy with two F's. You see that? But the LinkedIn use is Duffy. It's interesting. I see that. Is S Duffy. Regardless, like it's suspicious. It's suspicious. You know what I'm saying? But this is an example. Listen, looking for a gig is hard enough as it is. Let me tell you something. It's no joke looking for a gig. But to have someone basically go so far, and maybe the purpose is data mining. Like who knows? You know what I'm saying? But here's something else that I was able to do with Gemini. I was able to pull the IP address. This actually kind of surprised me. I was like, oh my god, like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Job scams. A security note. While researching the specific IP for you, I found that it has been flagged. So basically, this IP address, as per Gemini, says that it's been flagged. But let's take a look at the resource, right? And this right here, abuse IP. This is important too. Listen, all AI, right? AI functions to help you, but you have to challenge it. You have to say to the AI, what is it that you're telling me? What is it that you want me to do? Because AI can seriously like tell you things. If you ask for it to give you a report, it will give you a report. Here's something I want you to know about that report though. There's no guarantee that that report is going to be on point. I mean, there's absolutely no guarantee that that report is going to be on point. Give me a second. Let me go ahead. Right here. Okay. There's absolutely no report. It's like you have to research it. You have to take a look at what's being told to you. And after you look at what's being told to you, you have to adjust accordingly. Um AI is AI is a means to an end, right? But you just have to check it along the way, right? So these little things right here, this is actually telling you, right? And you could go to the site and you could look it up and it will explain. But this is basically says it's been job scams similar to the Walgreens one you received, phishing attempts to collect resumes. That's data mining right now for job hunters is crazy. I'm telling you. People are calling and they're asking for people are calling to like send me your resume. Then they call back and they're like, what's your address? I mean, that's one example. Like off the rip. I'm telling you, they're like, what's your address? You're like, man, what? Yo, I can't submit it. It's just data mining. You know, um, there is something that I'm doing. Like this right here is an example of trying to get around the data mining, get around like the fake recruiters, the haters, just to get around the scam artists. Basically, you got to put your work out there, and after you put your work out there, put your work, put your face out there, and you stand by it. That's the only way to. That's really the only way to do it. Could I be more perfect in my delivery? I mean, yeah, of course I can. You know, but that requires practice. That requires time. I mean, podcasting, doing live panels, talking on these types of topics. These are what do you call it? It's a practice. You know what I'm saying? It's a practice. But the thing is for me to put my work out there, right? And hopefully, like a recruiter or even someone that wants to do a B2B with me will basically say, hey, I saw you. Blah, blah, blah. How much would it cost for you to come and do this here? Right. Fine, I'll come and do this here. Right. And that's one of the most important things. But so let's get back on topic real quick regarding phishing. It's a vector, right? What the attacker wants you to do is to do something with an urgency, or just to do something, to click a link, to download something that'll sit on your device, or that will verify that you are there, that you are the person, the target. And then later on, they'll circle back around and they'll try to access your machine, they'll try to access your environment. Phishing, there's something I'm going to say about that too. And so we're in 2026. I'll be honest with you. If the phishing thing should be minimal, like everyone has experienced and heard about ransomware right now. Everyone has heard about the frauds, right? I'm honestly, my honest belief is that if someone is being scammed out of $20,000, thousands and thousands of dollars, I feel that if they got it from the bank, I feel like they're a part of it. I mean that with all my heart. If someone scammed a bank, if someone scammed services, I feel like they are a legit part of the criminal act. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. You can't do guilty until proven innocent. But sure the hell is to say, it's like if you're not guilty, you might just be inept. You know what I'm saying? If you're the payroll person and you sent a payroll check to someone, I mean that in itself is an example of just like there's no redundancy, there's no oversight. There's GRC is weak. Governance, risk, and compliance is weak. If someone can just send a check, if someone can just do certain things. Pardon me, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, check this out. Yeah, governance, risk, and compliance is weak. If someone can just send a check, if someone could just be like whatever. Governance, risk, and compliance is weak. If 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 someone is like, I don't know, like if someone is like, yeah, someone logged in Africa with my account, right? Like, no, you're supposed to have MFA. There's not supposed to be anyone logging in Africa, logging in a separate account. It's just not supposed to happen like that. That to me is that's solely that's up on top. That's not a that that's a reflection of how the business is doing things. I'll be honest with you. There's a saying: "How a man does one thing is how the man does all things." and that's important to note. All right. So phishing. What is phishing? Phishing is a targeted email spoofed by an address meant to trick the user into links, into pressing on a link or doing something. The things that stop phishing, firewalls stop phishing. There's so many tools. I forgot the name of this one tool, but basically, so imagine all your email comes in to the address, but it doesn't go to the address first. It basically goes off into another cloud, a sandbox cloud, where they look for links, and they disable all the links inside that email address. Now here's the problem. Not so much here's the problem, but here's something to consider. If someone, say for instance, someone is working at a healthcare agency or a not-for-profit that focuses on healthcare, and they are in compliance. Say for instance they're in compliance. Compliance gets emails all the time from outside people. They get emails from the Justice Center. They get emails from. I mean, I can't even. I mean, it's like if you work in compliance, unless it's changed, and it probably has. So, say for instance, if there's an application, right, and someone is like, "Hey, listen, you go inside this application, and this is where all of the information is." Let's just give you an example. That's one thing, right? But generally, at a certain level, someone has got to be receiving like a hard PDF. So you might be, you might have to do an audit with a third party agency for a certification. Someone has to be getting like the document to sign. You understand? And I'm only mentioning that because I'm also going to tell you that that's how hackers think. If you are, if you're on pen test, if you are a threat defender, whatever it is, or you're a malicious hacker, you're thinking, what can I do to get people to press this link? I'm telling you, somewhere in an agency, and I'm only saying this to explain why having having a system where everything goes in, right? And as everything goes in, all links are disabled. I'm only explaining to you why that might not be the best. You have to you have to like you have to almost use like a pinhole type thing. If you want to, you're gonna block everything. But then you're gonna say, wait a minute, the C, like the director of compliance needs this. Pop, and you pop a hole, and then that's the only person that could get it, right? And you might have to explain that to the business, or the business might have to explain that to you. There might be another way. Um, so more or less, that's what I'm saying about like the tool. There's a tool that basically stops everything, right? But you still need to think. What about the business? Because the business is what drives everything. Without the business, I mean, where are you? What are you? So that's essentially it. Okay. All right. So phishing, to wrap up, is that phishing is a vector. The things that mitigate phishing are tools, they're firewalls, they're email firewalls. Um, there's several examples. Barracuda is one that basically monitors email, stops it, looks at it in a different environment, and then allows for you to come and get it later on. It's a matter of trusting. Listen, I myself, like, I get emails, right, and if from people I know, and I don't open them. I just don't. I don't open them. I'll call the person and be like, hey, what's going on? You understand? And that's something I want you to consider. Like if you're in business, if you're working, just don't go opening up any email. Take a look at what that email is about. Call the person. It doesn't even matter the size. Listen, if I'm if I'm in the United, let's say I'll give you an example. So if I was in the army or something like that, and I was like some captain, colonel, like why am I getting email from someone that's like in, you know, supply, some private, whatever. I'm like, what? Why am I getting email from you? This is my the CEO. I'll be honest with you. Like even my things that I do, I get email. I'm like, what is it you want? You know what I'm saying? Talk to me here. The reliance on email is like it's a lot. You know what I'm saying? But don't get fooled. Don't get fooled just because of it. I want to give some people some hellos for being here. Munim, Ron, SPC Buffalo. Whatever. So many guys, man. Jesus Christ, these names. Oh, thank you. What's up, Darth? Okay, all right, good. Okay, all right. So that's about it. All right. So off that topic, let's go to the next topic. Social media. We're talking about vectors of attack. Here's the thing with social media. You gotta take social. This is going to be real quick. Social media has to be taken with a grain of salt. I'll tell you right now that if you're an IT professional, or if you are a professional and you have a social media account, blocking may be your friend. I'll tell you right now, blocking may be your friend. I worked at this one agency. I, I straight up I blocked everyone. I blocked so many people. I showed probably I forget when I showed, but basically to prove a point, I had a supervisor show up. He was an interim supervisor. He wasn't even there 4 months. He was like an name supervisor. It was like an interim director. He was there for a process, and we were talking about certain things. And this person was not born in America. Their first language was not English. Um, the person, like we were just talking about social media stuff, and then I blocked everyone. And it was like, oh, what do you mean by you blocked everyone? I was like, yeah, I started about 2 years ago. Blocked David, blocked Tim. I blocked Tim's wife. Some of these people, like I'm telling you, I blocked these people. I blocked them. I blocked their wives. I blocked their cousins. Even if they hid who their people are, if I saw a recent post on their social media, I click that post, right click block. And then sometimes too, I would have to spin the block because what it is that if you block, say for instance, if the target is A, all right, okay, let's say for instance, my this interim supervisor, let's say his name is David, right, and David is from the Ukraine, right. You gotta understand, if I just go and I block David, what's going to end up happening is I don't see everyone else that David knows, right? So I don't know if they're fake accounts. I don't know if they're legitimate accounts. I won't know, right? Um, that could be like a backup for David. David could be preparing and be like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I can't see such and such. Oh, but I'll use this account and I'll go and find them, right? So basically, what I did is I would just leave that account there and I would write down the stuff that I saw, the accounts that touched that account and posted, like say 30 days, right? And then I would go all the way to the beginning. And the accounts that touched that account very early, I would block those two. I didn't really care about that. I had to choose. You understand? But it's a matter of blocking. It's a matter of blocking the possibility of a person's fake account or a person's relative. I'm telling you, man. I just was like it became. I'm telling you, it became like a labor of joy, to be honest with you. And especially too, I was creating users. I was creating users for the account, which is going to go into the next thing right there. I learned a lot working in that organization. Probably spent too much time there, but I learned a lot. But basically, if I was speaking with someone and I got a sense of who they are during onboarding, I'd be like, wow. I mean, this only of all in the whole agency, I'll tell you, there's probably two people I didn't block. There's probably only two, but for the most part, I just block people, bro. You know what I mean? So social media, if you're out there up there, blocking people can be your can be your friend because there's no one that could ruin a post more than some nobody, right? It's not necessary for everyone to know where you're at all times. If you want everyone to know where you're at all times, right? Just be aware that there might be people that you don't want to know. So you block them, right? And that's important. Even now, I'll be honest with you, there's a double-edged sword to this because it's a labor of love, it becomes a practice, right? You could really learn a lot digging into people's profiles. You could learn a lot about yourself. But the thing is, it's like don't get so wrapped up into it. Social media is a voluntary construct. That's the other thing I'm gonna say about social media. It's like it's a voluntary construct. Arguing about Trump or Biden or Harris or even how the elections went is not as important. I'll tell you right now. I know someone that's pretty high up, like in a political thing, and one of the things that they always throw at me is, well, this person isn't going to run for office because they've ran for office and they've won. They have a career as a politician. So that's important. The thing is to get out there. Just arguing with people is like it's effing crazy. It's just not worth it. Like nothing is going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. Like I don't know. The best you could get for is like a full dopamine hit. There was someone I mentioned. There was someone that said something, and I was contrary to them, and all they were doing was just holding me to. And I was just like, I don't care. You understand? When I got off, when I got off the live, just coincidentally cruising another live, they were mentioning me. They weren't mentioning me by name. But they were like this person. Like they were so happy inside. You should have seen it. I could only say I wish I could point at it. It was crazy. They were like, and he like the person was laughing to them. They were like, that is so wild. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they were just laughing, telling this story, and other people were just so effing entertained. And all I could say to myself was, what? And then I jumped up there and I got into an argument with them. And you know what happened afterwards? I was like, why did I even do that? All right, given the choice of who I want to argue with, Eros, right? It ain't you, girl. It ain't you. It ain't you. I would I would like to be able to discuss or rebound discussions on services to paying clients, not to some not to some person I don't really know, not to some person. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't want to. I don't even want to even talk with people that are just raging maniacs. I don't. Nothing that I'm saying is raging. I'm not bugging out right now. I'm in a I'm in a certain whatever. You understand? And that's who I want to talk to. I've had discussions with people on social media. I'm like, yo, we're not alike. And I just be like, all right. And I don't know why that's a bad thing. To just be like, yo, nah, we're not alike. I don't want to see this train wreck. It's or just leave. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm at with that. And that's actually because of, like where I worked at before. I mean, like when I say stay too long, sometimes, man, when you're working for people and places, sometimes you're probably staying longer than you should. You probably really should get the fuck up out of there. Yeah, I cursed. Whatever. What am I gonna do? You know what I'm saying? But you really should get out of there. Like they're not helpful. I was at this one place, man. I'll never forget. We onboarded a marketing person, and they were out of there in like 3 days. They were like, "Yeah, nah, too much." You know, come from my generation. You're like you're my generation. I'm an older person. It's all about like working hard. Yes, boss. What can I do for you? What my boss this, my boss that. Yeah, no, no, no. I'll be honest with you. That's the one thing I'll say. You millennials, Gen Zs, I think that's the category. You guys got it right. You guys got it right. Just simply just be like, yo, I'm out. I'm out. I ain't messing with you. Y'all could keep that. You know what I'm saying? Good things will follow you. The worst thing that could happen is that you stay engaged in this social media thing. Bro, no good. No good. All right. So listen, the third and final topic, I'm putting on my glasses because we about to get nerdy nerd up in here, right? Hey, Rushley, I'm saying hello to some people real quick. I'm putting on my glasses because we're going to get nerdy nerd, right? And we are going to talk. I'm going to show you guys Azure. Oh, let's hope. Ba-ba, da, 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 da. All right. So to give you an example of Azure, let's say this. You onboard at a place, you're working. You expect for your email to be working. But hey, Rashali. I'm also on LinkedIn, by the way, guys, if you don't know. So you expect for your email to be working. What does that look like on the back end? This is it right here, what I'm showing you guys. Azure. This is the back end. Okay. You expect to be able to not only just get your email, right, but access your share drive, access your applications, and all of those things are important and a part of working with the cloud or an infrastructure. Here's the other trick, not so much the trick, but here's something I want you to know, right? Infrastructure comes in a few different flavors. There's what you call on premise, where the server is located inside your building or in a location that your building owns, right? Inside that server, there might even be different servers. Each server has a role. This that I'm talking about right here is Active Directory, which is a part of IAM, Identity and Access Management. Okay. So on premise, as I'm describing it, is in a building that you own. The cost to doing an on premise server is this: the electricity, the skill sets. Because to design a room, pardon me, the electricity, like just say kilowatts per whatever, you're paying that, right? The skill sets, right? You need an engineer. You need someone like me at a baseline, right? And other people like some of my other friends who can look at a rack and they know how many notches are in the rack. and they already know, oh, I'm going to use four of those notches for this, what they call OUs, whatever, right? I'm gonna use four OUs. I'm gonna use three OUs. I'm gonna put a patch panel. They know how to like put patch panels together. Um, they know that they need switches. They know that the switches are PoE, those types of things. All those things, they come, that's a physical cost from doing things that are on premise, right? Now, another part of on premise is to have what's called a co-location. And that means that your your infrastructure is set up in a building where there is a power source in case something goes wrong. Okay, that where there is something to keep the machine working. All right, and that's a co-location is also part of on-premise. Now let's talk about the cloud. Right, in the cloud you got Google Cloud, infrastructure as a service. Right, this is called, this the cloud is infrastructure as a service. Google Cloud has servers, instances that you can spin up. Okay. It has serverless applications. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's just list them out. So there's Google Cloud, AWS, Azure. Those are the big three, right? I should ask. Let me ask. Are there other besides Google and Microsoft? And besides Google, Microsoft, and I said AWS. Ooh, all right, okay. And there are, but I concentrate on those because of their search. Azure, Google Cloud, Kubernetes. Okay, Alibaba, the largest cloud service provider. Okay, so that's it. So we're talking. So for me, like I'm thinking, because just in America, but here's something to consider. There's one called Alibaba. They call it the largest cloud service provider in Asia. IBM is also a cloud. Yes, yes, you're right. DigitalOcean, yes. Wow, okay. Salesforce is in the cloud also. But the thing is, Salesforce is CRM. Salesforce is CRM. Uh, yeah, CRM all day. You know what I'm saying? Salesforce is CRM. I think there might be a little. I don't know. I don't even think that there is an ERP component to it, but for the most part, yeah, that's what it is. Salesforce. Then there's a bunch. Oracle is also another example of a cloud. But the Dell does a cloud also. Look at this. Cisco does a cloud, right? And those are infrastructure as services. Except that with Cisco's infrastructure as a service, you're talking about networks. Um, so you're talking about phone services. You're talking about a huge degree of telecom, right? Dell, yeah, yeah, because Dell does VM or virtual machines in the server architecture. Wasabi, cheap block storage. Okay, good. All right, so those are examples of clouds. All right. Give me a second, guys. Let me just get back on track. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Good. All right. So basically, all those things cloud, right? But a huge part of cloud is identity and access management. There's so many things to chop up when it comes to this. Even as I talk, it's like just because of my level of experience, I've I kind of see how things can merge together. How it's important that things pretty much just merge together. So for me to like focus on this could be a little bit. It's exciting. I have to do it, but let's just do it. All right. Um. So here it is, right here. Uh, I created these users. My steps for creating these users is that let's just do this real quick. All right. So the one of the first things that I did is that I created a CSV. But aside from the CSV, give me a second here, guys. Give me a second here. Is that I created pretty much a list that said who are these people. A second. Let's see something. Dev VP. There it is, right? Okay, this is, I'm going to show you the very, very beginning of what I did. If it opens up, please open up, please open up. Got it. Give me a second. The shoe's going to blow. But basically, what happens is that I did first name, last. So here's an example. Oh boy, and this is the type of thing that you're going to do depending on your level. If you're the director of IT at an MSP, if you are someone that's going to be just creating anything, what has to happen is that they're going to be like, all right, these are the people, right? And it helps that you put it in a list, a database, right? Something, because you want to be able to separate Angel Wind Angel Windbush from perhaps Angela Windbush, right? And if their name changes, you're going to need to put that in there also. So this is an example of the sheet. All right. So you notice right here, this department shared. This is empty. I put also here a category for PIN, business address. This is a physical address, right? Right. Okay, this is the physical access. So right here, if you notice where I got physical access, is that I'm saying I I like their access. So I put this here ahead of time because it's going to correlate with here, right? And it's also going to it's also going to be a part of my security posture. So business hours, meaning Angela Winbush, the compliance associate, should only be 9 to 5, right? Maybe I'll give it even say 7 to 7, right? But this person should not be downloading things at 9 o'clock at night, at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? They should not be downloading things in another part of the world. Okay. I put also here 24/7. This is supposed to be C. This is supposed to say 24/7, 365, because some people are, that's just what it is. Like, so this would be me as an example, right? So this is supposed to say 24/7, 365. Let's just see this 24/7. Let's go 365. Got it. So 24/7, 365. Where we're talking about, I gave that to the executive assistant. I gave it to everyone that's in the Department of Technology, because the reality is, if I'm a six figure, this is the reality. Period. End of story. Oh, pardon me. I'm sorry, guys. This is the reality. Period. End of story. If I'm a director of IT, right, and I'm making the salary, I want. That's it. There's no way the buck is going to stop with me. I want to know what's going on all the time. I'm available all the time. If you need to fly me out someplace to go look at something, I mean that's the job. You know what I'm saying? That's the job, and that's what I'm going to do. So basically, 24/7, 365. I've also put here date of hire, right? Because this is the type of information that, like, so if there's an HR component to things, it's probably going to ask that it sync or that it peers with a read into my Active Directory. There's important information. A date of hire would be important. It would be important. There's several reasons, but let's just put it like this way: it would be important. The other thing that I have here is that I have listed the computer, right? And where I stopped at with this one is VDI, which stands for Virtual Desktop Interface. It'd be a small thing. It would sit on a machine, it would sit on a desktop. Basically, there's BIOS, RAM. Wait, BIOS, RAM, this, I don't think it's even a CMOS. There's a network connection, and what happens is that someone logs in and that they're able to see everything. They're able to see like all their work, right? And then so I'm also would be accounting for, if they have mobile devices. Monitors would be an example. Phone, mobile devices, it'd be yes or no. That's important also because if I'm doing BYOD, right? I want to know if the person is supposed to be accessing the network, if they require a license, and I want to respond accordingly. And this way, and then there's the software assigned. So basically, this gets turned into a, let's see something. Open. You said, you know, this would get turned into a, ba, 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 ba. This would get turned into a CSV. Give me a second, guys. It's like taking a minute. And this is an example of a CSV. There's comma separated variables, right? And this is just a very light example. This might not even be the correct one, but basically, this is it. This is the users, right? There's certain things that can be here. Look, the location. I chose a fictitious location. All right. Fictitious. Right. Okay, good. And then also too, I have telephone numbers, right? All these things. This gets turned into a CSV, right? And I'm going to explain the next step. So after it gets turned into a CSV, right? What has to happen is that code has to be created. All right. Code has to be created that's going to allow for a couple of things. Well, let's just talk about the CSV real quick. Let me take a step back. Let's say this. And I want to say, if anyone's here, please go ahead, tap and engage. Let's do the like, right? This is very deep stuff. Well, not so much very deep, but whatever. For me, it's deep. It's exciting. Like, this stuff is exciting. So in Azure or Intra, right, a person can run a code, but also too, you could take that CSV and you could do a bulk, what they call a bulk import. You you basically fill out that CSV and you depend on the services of the cloud provider. to import everything from that CSV and basically, fill it in. Basically to create the users. But there could be a problem with that. It's particularly so. This is the beginning of what it looks like, right? Let me show you what happened when I did it here. Here it is. So the bulk operation results. So you see this? Not complete, not completed, not completed. And the reason is this: these services, what it is that if there's a decent amount of computing that happens. If you're trying to download, if you're trying to create users, you're basically saying to the cloud provider, I'm not going to stand there and do this manually. I've created a CSV and I want you to do it. The problem is they they may have laid all the people that created the application that does it off. They may have changed, they may have pivoted. That's part of using the cloud, right? You're dependent. You're not so much dependent, but there's a shared responsibility thing. You have to know, oh, this is not working, right? And then you have to go find another way. And it doesn't even tell you. See right here, please be aware of bulk operation and service limitations. Please be aware of the bulk operation and service limitations before using this feature. Operations can only run up for 1 hour. So that meant that they did 1 hour for all of these things, and still like it wasn't completed, right? Failures, total requests. Okay, this is a thing, right? Let's see all that. You know what I'm saying? And so what now, right? Let's put it this way. This is computer science stuff, right? This is nerdy nerd 101. This is this is how you make your money, right? This is the reason why these engineers are these engineers, right? Azure engineers, this is the difference between, you getting the job or you get the job and it's 75 an hour. How about that? You know what I'm saying? It's 50 an hour. It's some crazy number. You have to know pretty much many different ways to skin this cat because the business can't be sitting there waiting, and the business won't tolerate an excuse. You will get walked out the door. I'm telling you, I don't know how to even explain it to you. So basically, what happens next is that you have to create a script, right? And in creating the script, let's take a look at all these things. We're going to go through the scripts right here. And this, so basically, is the client IDs and the client secrets. I wouldn't even care if you guys, whatever, because you would still need to log in. Even if you knew what this was, you would still need to log in. Okay. Um, Author, and actually I'm going to change it, tell you the truth. This is just to be that guy. I'm going to change it, right? Authorization bearer, which is those things that are up there, right? And it says print successfully authenticated with Azure. And here's the beginning of the script. There's a hash because the hash is used in Python and in scripting to basically say to someone else, like if you were to leave, they were basically saying, hey, listen, this is what I created. Ta-da, this is what I created. You understand? And so this is this. With open, it opens the name of the file, and the mode is reading, and the encoding, right? We're not going to get so deep into what that is, but basically, all these text files, there's a different level of encoding that must occur. All right. This is in keeping with Microsoft's ability to read the file and Python's ability to read the file. Okay. The readers is the file, right? Map headers from my CSV. So my CSV, some things changed. The user principal names row get, username, password row get. which is if I go to the CSV, you'll see the passwords, right? So it's basically saying, okay, display names, user principal names, passwords, get. Okay. Now it goes filter out empty or example rows. If not UPN or contoso.com example in, but I'll continue, all right? And then here it is, constructing the user payload, right? So pretty much you see, let me point out something real quick. This is, some of this stuff is like a list, pretty much, but it's basically going through each one of those CSVs and it's saying account enabled, true, display name, true, user principal name, mail nickname, password policies, right? It's pushing these things, all these things that are underneath it. So password profile, underneath password profile is force change passwords or passwords, right? And job title, department usage. And I'm naming all these things to give you, I'm going to give you an example of what came out. And I'm also going to point out that I needed to be better, right? But here's what it is. So execute the post request, right? Now this is off of the graph, and it's essentially I'm like losing my breath, right? but essentially the push out, the effects of all this basically come down to this. That's what the effects of all this come down to. This, the creation of user stuff. Yeah, all right, okay. All right. And if you go here, still, so let's use an example. Let's use, what's my friend Ashley? There's two Ashleys. I did this on purpose. Ashley Rodriguez and Ashley Martinez. Let's go to Ashley Rodriguez, right? And in Ashley, there's an overview. This all this stuff is important, right? So you see, I've got the baseline set up, the baseline, or I've got a baseline set up. The thing is, what do I do now, right? Or let's just take a look at what's here right now, right? The account status is enabled. There's other things that I could do for properties. Monitoring, the user doesn't have a premium license. This is just a lab, right? But let's take a look at properties. What do we have? We have Ashley Rodriguez full name, but we don't have her first name or last name, right? We have a principal name. We have a creation type. All these things that are blank, let's just put it to you this way. The best of us know to fill this out at a max. Why? If 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 I'm, say for instance, if I'm some I'm IT director, I'm IT manager, right? This is the type of work that I'm going to be doing a little bit at a time, every day, once a week. I might do all A's, I might do whatever, right? Because as the business needs other applications, if out of the blue they call and they're like, hey, we're putting on an HR, we're putting on an HR component. Guess what? I want to be able to say here, or I want to be able to take a moment and review everything that I did and be like, oh, okay, all right, what is it you want? Okay, employee IDs. Do you have a list? Is there a nomenclature that you want for the employee ID numbers? If there is, I could just change what I have. But if they turn around, they're like, no, do you have one? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do have one. You know what I'm saying? I do have one. So to give you an example of one that I would create, if there were 10, if there were, and this is coming out of the military stuff too, but basically, if I if I have 7 departments, each department is going to start out with a certain number, right? And from that number, it's going to go into the thousands, right? So, as an example, if I'm executives, right? If I get hired and I'm an executive, my employee ID number is going to start out with actually number one is actually going to be the owner of the company, right? One. So it'll be 10001, right? And then one will be for all the executives. So that's my nomenclature thought. So as an example, if there's a CEO, a COO, a chief marketing officer, a chief legal, right? All of them want to start out with the one, right? If there's, well, actually, yeah, so they're all going to start out with the one. Now the department, I might be like, oh, okay, you know, compliance. Even though whatchamacallit had one, right? I might be like, all right, compliance, it's going to be three, right? And that'll be their employee ID number. So that's an example of just employee ID number. So here it is. And this is it right here. So see, department's important, company name would be important. I gotta fill that out, get that done too. So you guys are going to see that employee organizational data. Um, that could be whatever office location, the manager, sponsors, if there's that, right? And then there's a distinction if things are on premise or if they're in the cloud. We'll talk about that another time, right? All right. These are parental controls. This would be important if there are kids, there are children that are involved, and if there are minors that are involved. You want that parental control thing. Or if you're doing so, an example of that would be if you're working at a not for profit, the not for profit is like, hey, we do some, or even a for profit, and they're like, hey, guess what? We're doing a thing for kids in the community. Well, what kind of things you doing for kids in the community? Well, I want them to come and I want them to use our resources. Like, okay, guess what? That's when it's important to put that age group there, right? Because you don't want kids going off on the internet finding things, looking for things on your watch. You really don't. All this is an example of that. Okay, so again, another part. I mean, this is just this. All this has to be filled out, right? Let's take a look at some things that are going to be because this right here, this is basic 101. So, say for instance, Ashley Rodriguez, the boss calls, or even the she calls, and say for instance, if I have MFA enabled, right? But she calls and she's just like, yo, I think someone's accessed my stuff, right? Once you give a license to this person, you'll be able to see everywhere that they logged in. And you could do this on your own if you have Microsoft. You could go access, I think it's the top right. You access where it says my account, right? Info, and then it'll be able to tell you, it'll literally show you every place that your account is logged in. Okay. At that point, if you wanted to, say for instance, if Ashley's like, oh, I think I logged into something I shouldn't have logged into, you can revoke all her sessions. You could just basically just log her out of everything that this service is connected to. That means like her devices, you just be like, boop, boop, her email will just stop. Now, things that are on the device, we'll talk about that another time, identity access management, because there's a way to make sure that if something's on a device, that if it doesn't connect to your domain, you basically make it unreadable, right? So that's it. Then of course there's the refresh. Then of course there's the resetting of the password. So if Ashley is like, oh, I can't access things, whatever, right? Like, say, for instance, Ashley doesn't know how to use a self service password reset. If Ashley doesn't know how to use the MFA in order to reset the password, what happens is you come over here, you press reset password, and then reset password, right? And there it is. Boom. Ashley gets a new password. Da, da, da. It's just that simple, right? And you copy it and send it to Ashley, or that's just is basically it, right? Manage use. Okay, we're not going to get into that. Okay, all right. Let's go down here. Let's take a look at some other things. This is the overview, right? Audit logs. Audit logs is wild important because audit logs in identity access management. You could tie this to cyber. You will have to tie this to cybersecurity. If you are doing cybersecurity, audit logs are an important part of cybersecurity. Um, there's a process that more or less tells what happened, and in reading these logs, it'll just tell you. So audit logs and of course sign-in logs. Sign-in logs are wild important because it shows the date, the request ID, the user, the application. So, say for instance, if the user account is tied to Salesforce, if this is single sign on, and it's tied to Salesforce, what ends up happening is that this basically says, hey, I'm using Salesforce to log in, and you could tell the status. All right, sign in errors are important because sign in errors can show if someone is exploiting something, or if there's a pack, if there's I want to say brute force right there. If there's brute force hacking that's in play. The IP address is another thing. IP addresses denote a location. So if someone, say for instance, there's an IP address scheme that happens in Africa, if there's an IP address scheme that happens in New York, right? You should not see two login attempts for both addresses within 30 minutes. Because we all know it's impossible to fly from Africa to New York in 30 minutes. We know that, right? So the thing is, if you're doing cybersecurity, this is the type of things that are being looked at. The IP address is one thing, location. If there's a mismatch, if the IP address that's being logged in does not fit the geographical location, it's going to be a warning. Conditional access, and then, of course, the agent type. We're not going to go into agent type right now. Agent type is really dealing with AI. Identity and access management is a huge part. Identity access management, cybersecurity. With the advent of AI, it's important to monitor the agents that your accounts, that your staff use. If you're healthcare, heaven help you, heaven help you, right? If you're finance, heaven help you if you're not controlling your AI agents, if you're not aware of what your staff is asking for, you're risking it all. I don't even know how to even explain it to you. You're risking it all. Um, one of the things that jump out at me, even my AI, right, is how it holds information, and it's, especially since that I've enabled something now. So I enabled something that where it scans my workspaces, where it scans my Google Drive, and it could, if I were to be like, what's my child's name, it would tell me what's my child's email address. Well, your child's name is this, and it'll draw a conclusion, right? The fact that people may have enabled it, the fact that people, I'm telling you, I don't know how to explain it. Matter of fact, I should say I don't know how to explain it. One of the greatest threats is basically the staff when it comes to their use of AI, their need or their desire to generate that report, the contents that are in that report, right? The processes that are in that report, names, locations, the who, what, where, when, why, how. If they generated that report or generated that document, right, and they used AI, you you know you want to talk to that staff. You want to talk to that staff about that. You want to make sure that they have an idea of what they're doing, and even more, that maybe you've introduced them, like, hey, this is the way I want you to do it, right? And then continue from there. All right, so agents, let's go down the list. Okay, diagnose and solve problems. All right, here's a sign-in diagnostic. Look at this. You see how one of the first things it says is no failed signing because it hasn't logged in. But I got to tell you something. In 1 month, 30 days, this thing is going to be like no login in 30 days. What's up with this account? I'm telling you, that's how it's going to do. It's going to be like no login in 30 days. What's up with this account? Single sign on. Single sign on is basically that one account is used for all the services in the cloud or on prem. One account is used. The diagnostics, right? And then, of course, there's the whole thing about manage access, review roles, users, groups, and guests. We could go into that, but we're not going to. We're already, this is supposed to be superficial, but like, I'll be honest with you, I love this stuff. I love, if I could do identity and access management like all day, I probably would. To be honest with you, I love this. This is the users groups, um, locations, those types of things, authentication methods, making sure that people can log into their devices and get their information. I'm gonna tell you, this boy, I get nerd when it comes to this. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the cybersecurity stuff. I mean, I kind of get it. You know what I'm saying? But to me, the I am is a, like, it's a part of it all. You know what I'm saying? Like, the only thing greater than I am actually that really gets me going, like, wow, is networking. I get excited about networking topics, um, segmenting networks, uh, installations of switches. Because when you do networking stuff, you don't really change it. You don't change it once you do something that networking, right? It's like, it's kind of crazy. Like, people don't know. It's like a bridge. Everyone just goes across the bridge. No one sits there and goes, how did this bridge get here? Why did they put the bridge? Why not further down the river? Why not? Why did this overpass get here? That's the thing about networking, right? You set it, and it's like you have an idea of when certain things need to happen. If it's a VPN, you know when the VPN must be updated. You should know. You should know. I don't know how else. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it's basically, um, so it's basically, there's several types of VPN, right? Well, I shouldn't say there's several types. I should look it up to say. But let me give you an example, right? There might just be internal VPN where I only want the people that are using this VPN to just communicate from this point to this point, right? Like, meaning that if you're not sitting in that office building, right, that VPN is not working, and you won't be able to connect to this office building. You won't be able to connect to our servers. You won't be able to connect to our tenants. Let's say, so in an MSP, that type of VPN is like wild important. because in a managed service, and MSP stands for managed service provider. And in a managed service provider setting, basically you're saying, I got your back, right? And in saying I got your back means you need tools that can access the people that you said you got their backs stuff. So in accessing that stuff, right? You need to hard code into that VPN. Like, listen, you're not accessing people's stuff if you're in Mumbai. You have to be in this building in Mumbai, period. Right? Then of course there's the VPN where it's like, someone basically, well, I don't know, things may have changed. I think that the cloud is way more mature than what it used to be. There's a stronger understanding of the cloud, there's a stronger understanding of networks. And it's based, and it's, I'll be honest with you, to me, life in my profession, I divvy it up. Life in my profession is pre-virtualization, like only certain people were using VMware, to, oh, guess what, VMware became the flavor of the year, right? ESXIs, whatever, right? Um, Hypervisors with server technology, right? There's virtualization, like this, whatever. Right? Then also too, for me, it's, I said virtualization. There's another one that I like. I'm not going to talk about, but let me say, to me, life is pre-ransomware, post-ransomware, right? Pre-ransomware, it was all talk. It's all talk. It was all talk. I promise you, antivirus people, like antiviruses, people that produce antivirus software were just like, oh, we need, protect the endpoint. I don't even think they even used the word endpoint. They were just like, oh, you need to protect against ransomware. It was just almost seemed like they were just making stuff up. You know what I'm saying? I'm being honest with you. I shouldn't say that, but I'll put it to you this way. I worked at a place where I worked at a place where I promise you, we were supposed to implement an antivirus. We did implement an antivirus. Part of the package was that we would get 40 hours like a consultant, right? The part of the problem, I shouldn't say part of the problem, but here's the thing. I still remember the director of, or the VP of, like, say, IT operations, whatever, right? Basically, he turned around and said to me, we've never been hacked before. I was like, what? He's like, yo, we've never been hacked before. I was like, well, this is one of the reasons why we have it, even though we have been hacked before. It's just that they didn't remember, and they weren't really that technical, right? And then out of nowhere, this puppy happened, Ryuk, right? And then I learned, right? So there's pre-ransomware, post-ransomware for me, okay? And after this type of hack is literally where everyone started to get serious. Everyone started to be like, "Oh my god," you know what I mean? Like, I know a guy um, that does. I want to say, I because I don't want to, like, I don't want to name people and put people in certain positions, but I know a guy that was a salesman, and they were always practicing. Like, they were always saying, "Hey, listen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen." And I'm being honestly, like, positive they were just going along. You know what I mean? Not so much that they were going along, but they were just business was good, but business wasn't. And then out of nowhere, when ransomware occurred, let me tell you, I know this person. They were like, yo, business is good. They were like, yo, life is good. You know what I'm saying? The person even sent a referral for me to work in the organization. The problem is, I'd have had to move to the Carolinas, and I wasn't going to do that. I should probably stick around. But essentially, so there's life pre ransomware and post ransomware. And post ransomware, this is where everyone is way more serious now. Everyone is taking a look at the roles, the groups, the configurations, all these things, the security reports, right? All these are things, right? Troubleshoot risky users, right? And this is so what I'm showing you guys is the back end. A strong part. All right, so where we at here? Groups, administrative groups, assigned roles. Okay. Um Post ransomware. Now we're looking at assigned roles, right? We're adding assignments. We're looking at what's happening. We're looking at the groups. What groups are the would the users be a part of? We're looking at the applications. This is wild important because if Ashley is tied to single sign on, what happens is that Ashley may use the credentials and want to access something in Salesforce. What happens is that we get a notice and we can either set it to automatically consent or just be like, no, that's a part of it, right? The reputation of the applications is a huge part of it. Licenses, we haven't done any licenses. We're going to touch base on that, right? But I'm only going to do like a couple of licenses. I want it to be a trial period thing. Let's talk about devices. All right. The majority, I'm not sure if it's free at this time, but let's just put you this way. I think that literally, if you work someplace, excuse me. Oh man, sorry. Well, I mean, if you work someplace, what happens is that what happens specific to Microsoft, it's going to allow for you to access your work environment, right? What does that mean? So your company might have a OneDrive, your company might have a SharePoint file, right? You want to see it on your phone, which to me, I could be a little bit skeptical about it because aside from email, you know, I mean, aside from email, in the true nature of things, you know, why are you reading an Excel sheet on a little small iPhone? I really don't see that. You know what I'm saying? This is the type of thing I wouldn't push back. Like, so say for instance of the CFO, which most IT departments fall under. If he was to be like, yeah, yeah, my accounts payable, I want all this stuff to be whatever, whatever, right? I wouldn't, because I work for the guy, right, or woman, right, or the CFO. I would probably pose the question, have you ever looked at your Excel on a mobile device? Is it pleasant? You know what I mean? Like, can there be a possibility of some errors that can occur? And I would aim to be like, listen, nah, like no mobile devices for some of these people in finance, or even just let's just give them like Let's just give them email. You know what I'm saying? There's no need for them to do a OneDrive. Salespeople, I can see the need for a OneDrive because salespeople are out. And what happens with salespeople is that OneDrive can actually scan documents. So if salespeople are out and they're at dinner or they've done some type of entertainment, they could basically just take a snip, right? And it goes into that OneDrive. It goes into that organization from there. So salespeople, I could see doing that. C suites, I could see doing that. Um, IT professionals, yeah, I could see doing that because as we go from site to site, we might need to document something. So taking a snip and then it landing in OneDrive, and you could access that OneDrive later on is good. Other people that I can see doing that, mental health professionals, yeah, but you still want to with mental health professionals, you might if I was doing actually mental health professionals, I would just give them all separate devices. I would encourage them. I would beg them. I would give them all separate devices and beg them, please. When it comes to your clients, use only this. Don't sign in to your personal stuff, because if you sign into your personal stuff with a corporate owned device, and if something goes wrong, the corporation is really under no very little obligation or probably even ability to recover stuff. I know a guy. He went to Disney, and he sit there and he goes, I went to Disney. Da, 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 and this happened. Can you recover?" And I'm sitting there going, like, well, I looked at his phone and I said, I mean, I knew it. I knew it right away, just looking at his phone. And when it powered on, it was like you went past the number of times. When you go past the number of times with an iPhone, I mean, it wipes it. It wipes it clean, 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 man. Like fresh, brand new, clean. There is no recovery. In this cases where FBI has had iPhones, and they're like, "Oops," and they even contact Apple, and Apple is like, "Nah, nah, I can't do anything." Right? It's an Android. There's a better chance of recovering. Well, actually, it may have changed, but so Android devices, they don't. The hard drive doesn't get encrypted at startup. So I have an iPhone and I have an Android. Right? I use this Android. It's not connected to any data. I spent this is 2 years ago. I spent $75 or maybe even less for it. Right? This was the hottest. This was a hot phone back in the days. Right now, it's just basic. I use it to just capture some things. I use it for blogging. What I do know is that when you power it on at initial, it does not encrypt the drive. It does not care to encrypt the drive because iPhones are just custom. I'm not iPhones, but Androids are just customizable like that, right? And in that customization, that's the gap. In that customization, that's the gap. That's really something that any hacker is looking for. Like, oh, someone has to plug that in and type in this and type in that. Well, let me bet my bottom dollar that they didn't. Right? And once they land on that device and they see that those security things were not put in place, it's on. All right, devices, authentication methods. All right. So, being that this is a test account, none of these things have been put in place. Usable authentication methods, non-usable, all these is a part of it. So let's go right to the thing. A new support request. What does us? Let me tell you. When I first started, so basically I'm trying to figure. I don't have many people on here. I actually have one account that's on here right now, so I'm gonna bore you. Number, we're not gonna bore you, but let's just talk about this. When Microsoft first started, right, and everyone was on premise, you had to buy an enterprise plan in order to get support. With the enterprise plan, you could call them about anything from soup to nuts, and then they will walk you through it. If you didn't have an enterprise plan, woe unto you. Woe unto you. You had to Google it. You had to go and figure out, well, how do I get this? How does this work? Right? That's an important part of I want to say that's an important part of it, right? So now here we are, we're in 2025. There's Microsoft, AWS, all of these guys. One of the things that they want is that they want everyone to use their stuff, right? So let's see something. And in using their stuff, this is what it is, right? You could describe the issue, right? And you can send it and it creates a ticket. So there has to be a usability factor when it comes to all these things. All these things also, there's a learning. There's learning in all these things. You see this right here? Ask the Azure community. Let's do this. Let's open it up in a new tab. I'm gonna let it spin for a second. And then of course there's Azure documentation. This is just what it is. This is you could basically just you could legit teach yourself. A plus is always good to have, but let me tell you something. You sit down and you figure out, and if you have a computer science degree, or if you even have the base, like I don't have a computer science degree. It's just I've always been in technology. So yeah, so I don't have a computer science degree, but I've always been in technology. Even like way back when I used to use technology. I was dining service manager at NBC Studios. I would send out I would send out the menu, and if I recognized that someone was a consistent client, a consistent person, if I knew what I made it a point, my business actually, to know what people liked, to know that the comptroller has a Caribbean background. I would tell them like, hey, Wednesday I'm doing Caribbean food. What's wrong with that? You got to connect. You got to connect with people as best as you can. Um, so basically, like, there's the learning curve. You know what I mean? It's like, depending on what you learn. I've always been using technology because I believe in working with people and using tech to achieve the goals, and that's essentially it. All right. What else? So there's some more things, is that Azure has been turned to Intra, and Azure. Oh, the Intra, yeah. Azure and Intra, they're two different. They're the same thing. Eventually, they're probably just gonna close down all mentions of Azure and just be like, all right, it's called Intra. But this is what it is. Why this occurred, you can Google it and figure it out. But essentially, I've been on here, I think now, for 2 hours, right? I think I've given everyone a lot of stuff. Um, like and follow me for more. Check me out when you get a chance. And that's essentially it. I want to thank everyone and anyone that joined in. You are important. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that you're just taking some time to be with your family, friends, and loved one, doing the best that you can. Best wishes to you all.